Yeah, I know, this is another weird one. I don't know how else to break these up because I don't think either one warrants a separate video on its own. But here we are, we're taking a look at RiD 2001 Spychangers Scourge and Blokees Nemesis Prime, the Galaxy version, so the smaller one. Because, of course, Nemesis September rolls on, and so must we. So, let us kick this off with Blokees Nemesis Prime, because now I finally get to talk about Blokees in some capacity. I'm not going to add anything to the conversation, because the conversation's been going on for a while, and honestly, I've been avoiding Blokees for a very long time, not because I thought they were bad, but because I thought that they would be a very dangerous slope for me to start sliding down. And I was partially right. Thankfully, I've been able to resist the temptation to just get a ton of Blokees. I say having probably close to a dozen in my collection at this point, but I don't want one on every character. So we're looking at Nemesis Prime as both a month theme thing, because this is when we look at Nemesis Primes, and also it's sort of like you look at one of these, you've seen all of them practically. There are some very minor differences between some of them, especially in terms of like little extra bits like around their backs and stuff like that. There are minor differences between them, but they all use the same base skeleton. Point is, it's a broad strokes, like, you see one, you can kind of get an idea of what they're all like. And now, Nemesis Prime specifically is extremely cool. I really, really like this. I actually inadvertently got the Shattered Glass version because they're blind boxes and you don't know what you're going to get, and I was like fingers crossed for a Soundwave in the set that I was buying the blind boxes from, and one of the things I got was Shattered Glass Optimus Prime, which I liked the mold, but I don't do Shattered Glass Prime. It's Nemesis is what I want. So to get this guy, in addition to Ultra Magnus and Hook and Scrapper, I ended up getting a box. And the box comes with 9, opened up all 9, found the 4 that I wanted to keep, and the rest I'm going to be putting up on eBay. They might be up on eBay by the time this video goes live. I don't know. First of all, there's a lot of detailing on this guy. Like, I love that they did the turquoise in the shins and the biceps and like the waist section and the other waist, like the midriff section. We also have this, it's not silver, it's like a almost powdery gray for the shin vents, which is fine. Then also the gray for the smokestacks, and the head crest, which we'll look at more. Oh, and the turquoise for the chest lights. But what's neat about these is you don't have to do any painting or stickers or anything. All the parts are just in the bag, and you just assemble it. Another thing that I like about these is they feel sturdier and more substantial than your typical model kit. When I used to put together Gunpla kits, one of the things I didn't like about them was I felt like I had to be super delicate with them. This feels more like a modern Action Master than anything else. This does not feel like a model kit. There's more weight and density to this little guy than there is to like your standard high grade, at least from what I remember from putting high grades together. Detailing is great. The stickers for the chest windows were already there. The thing that I really like, it's the Galaxy version specifically, the Galaxy and the Shining versions that really capture my attention with the Blokees, because there are some more complex kits out there, and I am still a little bit tempted by their Soundwave that's like much more involved. But I really like the Galaxy and Shining versions because of, one, the fact that the builds are very simple in a fun kind of like, I guess, snack food kind of way, to use a terrible food analogy, but also they're much more stylized. And I like that stylization, because this is still very clearly a Nemesis Prime, but like just the proportions, the way the forearms and the shins are puffed out a little bit, things like that, they really push this stylization. And I really like this stylization. Just, it appeals to me specifically, but also I like the fact that they are stylized, just as a general thing, because yeah, this is basically G1 Prime in black, which is, you know, basically what Nemesis Prime typically is, but they still make him look a little different. And as I said, there's actually a pretty good amount of detail on this, even around back. They've got pretty much what you would expect from a lot of the molding. Of course, because of the way these kits work, the actual sculpt of things like the feet, the thighs, the forearms, the hands, they're all the same across the board. This is basically what everyone's calf looks like, just in different colors. But then you slap on the extra little piece there, and suddenly, oh yeah, that's Optimus / Nemesis Prime's shin. And I just really like how they're able to do this with like as few new parts as possible. Like all of them have the same thighs, they all have the same biceps. It's just how you arrange them, and sometimes they come with extra pieces that you peg on or not that make the big difference. So yeah, very cool. Really like this guy. The head is, again, kind of stylized, but it is very much Optimus Prime and therefore Nemesis Prime. They didn't even need to put that much paint on it, so they did the gray for the little head crest thing, and then they did the shiny pink for the eyes, which I do think is neat. And the rest of it, just the face and faceplate is gray, the helmet is black plastic, and that's it. Now, for his articulation, it's also pretty darn good. He's got the ball-jointed neck, so you can tilt, can rotate, can look up a little bit and look down a little bit. Shoulders can go around. You also get a little bit of rotation for like a butterfly motion, but there's like a separate kind of ball cup inside the torso that allows this to shift a little bit as well. It also can shift up and down, and then because of the cut for the arm joint, you can bring the arm out. So you can get some pretty decent range out of those shoulders. You also get a bicep rotation. The elbows bend slightly past 90. The wrists are on ball joints, so you can wiggle them around and, of course, spin them. This is something that I think is maybe a little bit disappointing, but I'm also not really broken up about it. It's just a thing that I feel like, maybe with future versions of Blokees figures. I know they've got like a new, like a 2.0 mold that they're rolling out with the most recent box set that's coming out, the most recent Galaxy box set that's coming out as of this recording, where they're adding like extra joints and doing like double jointed elbows and knees and stuff like that. But the waist is it's a simple peg, so you're not getting any ab crunch or ab tilt, which is a little bit unfortunate, but these guys are fairly simple in the long run, so it doesn't bother me that much. It's just a little disappointing. The hips are also ball jointed, so you've got forward and back, and this is pretty universal for all of them because they all have pretty much the same pelvis shape. Outward can go all the way. You get a little bit of rotation at the ball joints, which I like to use for more subtle expression, but you also do get a proper swivel just above the knee. And then for the knee itself, that bends a little bit past 90. A little bit. And then for the ankle, you kind of saw this before, but it is ball jointed, so it can go forward and back and tilt side to side and rotate. And how much it can rotate really depends on the shape of the shin plate, which can vary from figure to figure. So this guy is pretty darn posable, and I really like him. I know I'm not the first person to make the Action Master comparison, but that really works for me. I didn't like Action Masters as a kid because, they have to transform. What is this? And I wasn't really into the idea of revisiting Action Masters as an adult because their articulation is super duper limited. So the gimmick may have worked based on the kinds of figures that we had at the time, but now they just look kind of outdated to me. But this as like a sort of revisionist reimagining of Action Masters really, really works for me. Now, he does come with some accessories. I did not bother to dig out the extra hands, but they've all Blokees figures. They have like the fists, and then they also have like a splayed open hand for each hand. So he's got his open hands are in the parts bin, but I did keep the rest of this stuff out that he comes with. He comes with a stand. It's very simple. It is the same for everybody. I don't even think the colors are different when it comes to like the typical Galaxy version. The Shining versions, they did yellow for Autobots because like Arc, and then purple for Decepticons because Nemesis. Regular ones, you just get this piece, and you can't store anything on them, which sucks and is annoying, and I really don't understand why these peg holes are all here because, like, I'm sure there's a reason, but I haven't been able to really figure it out because you can't peg the extra stuff in there. These openings are way too big. However, they are interlockable. That's a word, right? You can interlock the stands together, actually. Since I mentioned them before, let me bring these guys in real quick. Here we've got Scrapper and Hook that came in the same box or same carton as Nemesis here. And again, I love the stylization here, but you can see here their stands are locked together, so you can just kind of chain them together. It's a little bit unfortunate that they can't lock together this way as well. Anyway, to use the stand, there's just openings at the bottoms of the feet, and they go over these little Lego post things on the stand. And typically I just peg both feet in, call it a day, like that, and they hold really well. As you can see, the joints are also really nice and stiff. You can do things like, if you wanted, have him like balancing on one foot or something like that. I don't know. I appreciate how the stands are very simple, but they do allow for a pretty decent amount of expression when it comes to posing. I actually have the... Whoops. Must have just pushed the arm a little too much. I actually have the G1 style Optimus that I got in a different box that I got a little while back. And I have him in like a mid-running pose, and the stand supports him just fine. Anyway, you also get these big cannons that they just have these little pegs on the inside, and you can use those to peg into the forearms. So you can arm up Nemesis with these giant arm cannons, which I guess makes him somewhat akin to the either Power of the Primes version or the Siege version, the Netflix version specifically. And then he also comes with a sword, and the sword looks pretty cool. It's molded well, it's done in red plastic, and that just goes into one of the fists, whichever one you might have. And there he is. And this is really cool. I like this a whole lot. I am happy. This guy's very cool. Okay. We'll get back to him in a minute. So now we got to talk about RiD Spychangers Scourge, and this is a very simple little, almost Hot Wheels style car. It's basically just it's one of those simple like pocket toy type things, but I always had my eye on Spychangers Scourge just because of the Nemesis thing, and also I like RiD Scourge. But for what it is, it's done well. The wheels up here sit pretty high, but these are actually fake, so those don't roll. It's the ones on the ends that roll, and they do roll pretty darn well. And you've got, of course, the telltale trim on the over the rear wheel wells on the front ones. The red for the windows, the red for the headlights, and the silver for the grille and smokestacks, and that's kind of the whole thing. Unfortunately, there is some paint scuffage on the front windshield, but it is what it is. It happens. Real quick, let's just bring in RiD Scourge here, so we can do a direct comparison between the two. Regular RiD Scourge is quite a bit bigger, which should not surprise anyone. Though I still think it's funny just how surprised I was when I first got RiD Scourge for the first time. This guy is much bigger than expected. Alright, I guess we'll do the Patreon and coffee thing before we do the transformation. I've links to both down in the description as well as at the end of the video if you want to support the channel. Otherwise, like, comment, share, subscribe also helps. No other time to do it, I guess. So to transform this guy, it takes like 5 seconds if you're not explaining everything. Maybe even 2 seconds. Basically, you just pull this out. That extends the legs. And then you split the top and just shift down the shoulders/arms. And what I tend to do is bend the arms forward so I can bring these shoulders out and down a little bit more, because that just gives my large fingers room to get in here so I can pop up the head. And then shift these back into place. And that's it. Spychangers Scourge is very simple. Extremely simple, doesn't really do anything. Articulation is, you can move the forearms up, like that's not even, I don't even know what that is. That's not an elbow bend, and it's not a shoulder rotation. That's like half of the bicep just kind of breaks and moves forward. I guess you could argue that that's a little bit of outward and inward motion, and he can arguably look up slightly and kneel, squat, I don't know. This is not a toy that you get because it's got posing power. You get it to just flip it back and forth because it's really quick. And it's fun to do. And the robot mode is actually pretty nicely detailed. I like that they added way more of that turquoise or metallic bluish green, whatever you want to call it, all over the robot mode. So you got it on the knees, the torso, and the shoulders, and of course the head, which is extremely tiny, and I'm not sure if I can show enough of that. It looks like some of the paint, there might have been more paint on the head crest that's rubbed off. I did get this used, which, you know, it's unfortunate, but it happens. And also some of the turquoise on the side looks like it might have rubbed off a bit, but really not all that bothered by it. For what it is, for the size, it looks good. That head is smaller than a pea, so it's fine for what it is. All right, let's bring Blokees Nemesis back in here, and let's do a little bit more size comparisоning. Bring back RiD Scourge, the original RiD Scourge, the default RiD Scourge, and yeah, he's absolutely enormous compared to, well, especially compared to Spychangers Scourge, but yeah, it's a big figure. And let's bring these in a little bit with Studio Series Leader Class Age of Extinction Prime, who I still have to customize into a Nemesis, but I'm going to do it. And let's scoop these over a little bit to properly bring in my other two easy to get to size comparisons for G1 style primes. So we've got the Siege mold and the Studio Series 86 mold. Again, this is not a big figure, and this is an even smaller one. And of course, I'm going to bring in Reactivate Soundwave again, because I will maintain, and for the rest of this month, we'll continue to talk about how this is a very underrated figure that people give way too much grief to. And he looks great with repro labels. And that does it for Blokees Galaxy version Nemesis Prime and RiD Spychangers Scourge. Like I said, this is kind of a weird one, but I don't know. I just wanted an excuse to talk about Blokees a little bit, and this is a perfect reason to. And I didn't know where else to put this guy because he's so small and simple. There's really nothing to go over here. But this is a fun little toy. I do like this guy for what he is. But that'll do it for these two figures. Thank you everybody for watching. Feel free to let me know what you all think. You can chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And next time, it's just still more Nemesis. Still more Nemesis Primes on the way. At least a couple more.